In the stellar queendom of Rhea, the Sisters of the Host do all they can to protect the hearts and lives of its people. Rhea, spanning most of the known galaxy, is beset by forces within and without who would drag all into oblivion and despair. Aliens of uncertain intent traverse the queendom's borders, all while internal hatred and distrust would tear the people apart, as older, fouler things in the darkness wait to see their plans birth a terrible future. The hosts are the creations of the Dreaming Queen, mystically and genetically endowed super soldiers that give heart and body to protect the Queen and her people. Come and join us for their stories. Greetings, subjects, and welcome back to Rose&Crescent, Blood and Sparkles, powered by Fabula Ultima. I'm Isaac, the Royal Herald, or the GM if you prefer, and with me are my players. Please introduce yourselves.
Hi, I'm JP. I play Petra.
Hello, I'm Ira. I play Eliza Snyder.
Greetings. I'm Rin, and I play Chiaka of the Silent Luminaries.
So a couple episodes back, I brain floofed on having a question, so Rin asked a question in the previous time, and in the last episode, JP asked a question. So keeping this as a thing, Ira, now it's your turn to ask a question.
My question for the group is, it's time to celebrate another long leave back home. What are you eating at your first big meal back? For Lisa, it's going to be a rather large spread of various antipastas and probably a lovely large salad and some type of fancy pasta.
Dessert?
Probably something light and refreshing, like a raspberry sorbet.
Fancy. All right, JP, what is Petra going to have?
Petra would have an athlete's meal, but a fresh one, living aboard a ship, dealing with ration packs and the types of food that you have available that has to withstand long voyages through the Dreaming aren't, bad for you, obviously, but it's not the same as having fresh eggs, bean chicken, solid pesto type sauces, vegetables, and a honest to God real glass of actual water, not this recycled stuff that you are forced to drink.
Something fresh and mountainy.
Sure, like the dew off the morning sun.
All right, what would Chiako have?
Chiako would have a meal that consists of primarily two groups of things. One would be things like crab and lobster, things that she can crack into, she can break to pieces before eating. Then the other group of things would be very, very heavily sweetened or richly chocolatey desserts. Very delicious.
Although now I just have this image of like a young Chiako running across the shore chasing the crabs. Her parents think like, oh, she wants to go after the crabs. And you're just like, I am hunting you crabs.
Come to me, my little animal friends.
On that happy note.
Previously on Rose&Crescent.
Our heroines aided in the cleanup of the colony of Akash in the aftermath of Caledon Mars's attempts to convert the population into artifact-controlled monsters. Additionally, they determined that they would take the now-mutated citizens with them for their own protection, and in the process decided to train them to use the strength and reflexes they had gained. What's more, as they headed to their next destination in their mission, they answered a call for help from the planet Nagara. So, you're falling. You've jumped, or in the case of Alyssa, been kicked, off of Alona's heart, doing your suborbital drop. This is going to be a group check, as the three of you coordinate and get into formation. Who's taking lead? This is going to be a dexterity and willpower check.
Those are Petra's two best qualities.
All right. In that case, I want to target number 10 assistance checks from Alyssa and Chiaka.
And as she's falling, you start hearing Petra chanting a litany that is well known amongst the stalwart grove. It seems to be hyping her up to hit the ground running and start shooting as soon as she gets out.
You have a deep bass Celtic-y chant as you descend. Rin, you got a 14, that's a success. Ira, you got a 6, that is not a success. Now, it's not so bad that it adversely affects the roll that Petra's going to make, but it does not grant a bonus either. So, dexterity plus willpower +1 for Petra, please. And this is an open check.
A 16.
Oh, that is very impressive. You're chanting, the other two sync up behind you, and you descend like angels streaking in from the heavens.
Just before we land, the last words that she kind of screams at the top of her lungs is, we live for the queen, we die for the queen.
As you're falling, the pieces of the armor burn and break off. Orbital drop suits are ablative in nature, so flaming trails streak behind you. And surprise, this roll was not to see if you land, but this is to see how cool your entrance is. So, Petra, how cool is your entrance as the last of the suit breaks off and make your final landing?
Pretty cool. She waits till her sisters are behind her, knowing, that they've landed. She's got Clarabella up to her shoulder and is already using the vision-enhancing stuff in her suit's helmet to check for threats around the landing zone.
You crash, you're looking, the dust clears, and you are in what appears to be a city center. Tall, white-stoned buildings all around. It would be quite beautiful, if not for the fact that the building and structures have been damaged, and that there seems to be a fight going on. 3 large, serpentine monsters are coiling around, going after what appears to be a small group of humans. Looking at these creatures, your first thought is giant snake, and that's not entirely wrong, but as you look at its face, you see almost human-like qualities to its face, adding a very uncanny air to it. As you step forward, the beasts are coiling back and forth, and they stop, and in unison, they look at the 3 of you. And without seeming to confer with each other, 2 break off and charge right at you, and the third one makes a grab for the group of regular humans. The 2 that are charging you are slithering straight at you. What are you doing?
Petra is going to ignore those 2 and stop, take careful aim, and shoot at the one attacking the civilians.
And Alyssa and Chiako, what are you doing?
Alyssa, seeing the 2 charging the party's position, the landing party's position, will ignite her light hammer and impose herself between these lizards and her comrades.
Sounds like a good plan.
3 Basu and 3 of us. Not an even match, but I'll handle it anyway. And she's gonna go for one of the 2 charging at them.
All right. Before we get to the 2 charging you, I want 1 roll from Petra as she attempts to shoot the Basu going after the group of regular humans. Upon closer look, they seem to be government officials.
My chances of getting a kill shot on the first die roll are pretty slim, so she is going to at least go for something that'll hurt, probably like the head anyways, just to get the attention of the creature away from the civilians.
Sounds like a good plan.
Okay, so roll to attack.
Yep. Defense is 12.
Okay, that gives me an 18 to hit with 20 damage.
That is a big ouch.
So I have its attention, you're saying?
Strangely enough, no. So you made the shot, you hurt this thing badly, but a couple things happen at once. The 2 charging Alyssa and Chiako, they're charging you, slithering faster than you expect for a creature of this bulk to be able to do so. They're getting closer, you think that they're about to be in striking range, and then they slide on past you. Similarly, the one that took the headshot, though slowed, it manages to grab one of the government folk and starts slithering off in a different direction from the other 2. It is now a chase, which means it's now time for a clock. Yay! For this clock, you want to fill it up in order to catch it. So this clock will be going down each round. You 3 will be acting first. You are trying to get this clock up to full. However, each turn it'll go down by 1 slot. So ideally, you get it up before it touches back down to 0 again.
What's the lose condition?
If the clock reaches 0, the boss will get away with the hostage. Alright, first round. Who amongst you is going first?
I think Petra should, since she was focused on the Basu that has taken the hostage in the first place.
Okay, yeah, I can do that. How clean of a shot do I have on this thing from where I stand? Am I going to have to run forward to catch it?
You are going to have to run forward. This is an urban center, and it is slithering between and about the buildings. Roll me an insight check as you do, though.
Alrighty. And 11.
You notice as you're running forward, trying to get a line on it, it is navigating this urban environment quite expertly, almost as if it's very familiar with the terrain.
Okay. Then, so this thing is going forward with agility and an understanding of the terrain.
Correct.
Then, because everything is a straight line in Petra's world, she is just going to barge through all that and try to use like a bullish rush forward to kind of make up the ground.
Roll me might and might.
Might and with might. Okay.
I'll say your transhuman bonuses can apply here if you wish to activate them.
Giving us complications is always fun, so yeah, I'll do that. A 20 as a critical success.
Wow, 2 10s. That is impressive, yes. You're rushing forward. There's debris, there's already damaged buildings kind of in your way. Also, at least one building that hasn't been damaged, and you're just charging through, like the Kool-Aid man through the wall. And you have an opportunity. What are you going to spend it on?
I'm going to use it to improve my shot.
The success on charging forward increases the clock in your favor, and you're going to save the opportunity for your next roll next round.
Yes.
All right. And now it falls to either Chiako or Alyssa. You saw Petra just run off straight towards this thing.
Are you not going to contribute to the general chaos?
Of course I will. Chiako's going to run in and do a bit of parkour. Chiako is going to run in and get above everything, do a little parkour, get that bird's eye view, so to speak. And while keeping an eye from above, she can also help direct those who are below.
Give me might and dexterity.
That will be a 14.
That is a success. You managed to jump up, do some ricocheting off the buildings, and you are now up above, surveying the side. You see Petra just Clarabelle in hand, power charging, dun 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 dun, as the beast slithers and coils, and the man in its jaws, seemingly having passed out from screaming too much. And that advances the clock. You're now at 5 pieces of the clock. Alyssa, it is now your turn.
Alyssa's heart. This is Alyssa.
This is
I need you
Rito
to get the sensors up. We need a scan on a kidnapping victim being moved away from my location.
Checking. Plotting possible courses. Just from a visual, there's a number of routes they could take. Sending you data now. What kind of roll are you thinking to make?
I don't know.
All right, so we have Petra chasing after. We have Chiako on Overwatch. How about this? Roll me an insight and insight to extrapolate and calculate possible courses that the Basu might take.
Sure.
You got a 9? That, unfortunately, is not enough. You want to use a Fabula point?
Don't really have a trait that applies to this.
In that case, it's its turn. It slithers and slides and tries to make its way out, reducing the clock by 1 slice. And it's now your turns again. Who's going first? How about you, Petra? You're charging after it. Are you going to try to take a shot at it?
Yeah, I can do that. So Petra briefly stops for a moment, puts a foot up on a low wall, braces with that, putting a strong foot behind her, takes careful aim, and then fires.
All right, defense is 12.
And what about the opportunity that I spent to boost this roll?
That would give you a +4 to the roll.
Sounds great. A 19 for 17 points of damage.
That is a hit, and that is 1 more slice added onto your clock.
How damaged is this thing?
It's not looking good, but you've seen big beasts move while injured, and this creature seems to be ignoring the pain in an atypical way.
Interesting. Okay.
Chiako, what are you going to do? You're on Overwatch. You see Petra take another shot at it. It seems to be continuing to move. What are you going to do?
I can either chase or attack, correct?
Correct. Although you could also try to interrupt its path, try to take its, for want of a better term, footing out from under it. You have a wide operational leeway here.
I am going to try something new. I want to drain its spirit.
Interesting. Now, is this a skill or a ritual?
This is one of my offensive spells. Drain spirit is where I consume a creature's psyche. The target loses HR plus 15 mind points, and then I recover an amount of mind points equal to half of the mind points that they lost.
Alright, give it a roll. Magic defense is 9.
My magic check ended up being an 11.
You drain its spirit, mess with its mind, confusing it for a second, and thus filling in another slice of the clock.
That is going to be 22 mind points, which gives me back 11, more than covering the 5 I lost. Do I get to overfill on mind points? Is that a thing?
It is not, unfortunately.
Well, darn.
But you are now halfway there. Alyssa, do your thing.
Alyssa is going to head over. Give me the situation. What exactly is happening here?
At that point, a rather straight-postured man detaches from the group of government workers, looks at you, goes, Torn Eccles, deputy to the Nomarch, which is the person that monster just went off with.
Does this colony lack security? How did a Nomarch just get kidnapped in a...
We've been suffering a series of, Basu attacks recently. It's attacked people before, although this is the first time it's attempted to take, a hostage for want of a better term. As for why it's been happening, it's been managing to circumvent our security.
That attempt, it has a rather large asterisk next to it, given that, by all accounts, they appear to be successful if my sisters don't intervene in time.
That would be an accurate assessment of the situation. Oh, sister. Roll me an open insight and insight check.
15.
You're looking at this man, and something about this man is very familiar to you. You'd swear you've met him before.
So this is where I will then invoke my trained memory, where I can perfectly recall the details of any scene I have visited within the past week.
This is more than a week ago, unfortunately.
Okay.
Nice try, though. Are you going to try to calculate avenues again?
I guess she will attempt to analyze it in the back of her head while she's talking to these people.
She is quite multi-talented in that way. So, give me another insight and insight check to calculate the possible avenues.
10.
Alright, that is a success. As you're talking to this individual, trying to rack your brain about where you know this man, something in your mind clicks and those previous calculations suddenly make sense, and you forward that to both Chiako and Petra, thus adding another slice to the clock. Of course, as it is the end of the turn, the clock is reduced by 1, thus canceling it out. Now, I'll let you have one more question for the fellow before we hop back to Petra.
Can you at least tell me where the Batsu are coming from?
Unfortunately, we have not determined that either. They tend to pop up at various infrastructure and industrial works. We've had a number of infrastructure renovations and expansion projects going on for the past while, and they seem to be popping up at these places and doing damage to them. Alright, Petra, are you going to continue the run and gun, or do you have something else in mind?
Well, if a success on this doesn't really do damage so much as fill the clock, I'm kind of tempted to do the running, but my bonus is better with the shooting. Now, you know what? My bonus is better with the shooting, but she would just be running right through the buildings and stuff at this point. Maybe trying to use Elisa's telemetry to allow her to make some shortcuts and possibly get closer to this thing.
Give it a roll. Might and might, as you continue to rush your way through.
A 10.
That is a success as you attempt to close the distance.
Alrighty.
And Chiako, what are you going to do?
Well, I assume that I would also have to close the distance, right? Because I stopped to drain, and they have slithered away. So I too am going to chase, but from above.
Alright, more parkour.
Parkour.
So for this one, that's going to be a dexterity and dexterity check.
A critical success. Double 9s.
Do you want to use your opportunity for progress to fill an additional section on the clock?
Yes, I'll do that.
Alrighty. You're running, you're jumping, and using the data that Alyssa sent you, you managed to find a shortcut to get yourself a bit more ahead.
In the meantime, I'm also coordinating with Petra so that she is aware of my current location.
You hear the occasional out-of-breath, You can tell she's running so hard that even she can't respond.
Yeah, as you're running, you're leaving divots in the ground. Alright, back to Alyssa. I assume the questioning of the deputy continues?
It does. If we're going to stop them from kidnapping the Nomarch, we're going to need to know some details. You're going to need to answer some questions, Deputy.
As you say, host sister, he says.
How do these things get around in a way that allows them to bypass your security measures?
That is something we've been investigating. Unfortunately, we haven't exactly had a chance to take one down and examine it. Roll me an insight and willpower check as you both try to get more information out of him and ascertain the nature of that information.
That is a 9.
That is not enough in this case. You want to use a fabula point?
I might use a fabula point. Pragmanian Governor's Daughter.
Between that and your general training as a Daughter of Harmony, you're used to dealing with obstinate bureaucrats. So give it a roll.
Oh, it's even worse. A 6.
You do have more fabula points if you want to spend them.
I do. I also want to hoard them.
However you wish to do. And it falls back to Petra.
Petra will have taken some shortcuts based on the telemetry that Elisa has given and the directions from overhead that Chiako has given. So she is going to use that, like I said, to take a shortcut, maybe get onto the side of it, and as it goes past, perpendicular to her path, take a shot at it before continuing the chase.
All right, give it a roll.
I got a 22 with 21 damage.
All right, this thing is looking ragged. Possibly one more good shot could take it out, and you managed to slow it down noticeably. Going to go to Chiako's turn. Chiako.
Yes?
Chasing after it, how close would you say you are? Petra managed to get a shot at it at a relatively close range, even if the chase does continue. Would you say that if you try, maybe with a soaring leap or some other effect, you might be able to get close to it? Or possibly some sort of magical effect, either contain it or propel yourself? Do you think you can get close to it? And if you think you can reasonably get close to it, do you think you can make an attack on it?
Well, unfortunately, I cannot use a magical effect to contain it or propel myself. That would use ritual magic, which would start a whole other clock, so no. But I can certainly see myself being a rooftop or two away, being able to drop down, block its path, so that it's sandwiched between me and Petra.
Because it's
host and Basu sandwich.
Tasty. It would get a bonus to its defense, but if you want to try to do a soaring leap on it to try to end it, that would be doable, if you are willing to take the risk.
No risk, no reward.
Alright, give me an attack roll. And this is where I'm going to spend that opportunity from before to increase its defense for this particular roll.
Right. A jump, flying leap onto the creature, and hopefully I do not crush the kidnappee while I bring these daggers down.
The first attack with a 17 hits. The second attack does not. However, you're looking at it as it goes, you see Petra get that attack in on it, you realize it's vulnerable, and this is a giant monster for you to have fun with. You run, you start pumping, you pull your daggers, leap off the edge, and soar through the air at it. The first dagger does not get purchase, so you thud into it, slide a little bit, but as you're sliding, you ram the other dagger in and twist, causing it to jerk and spasm and collapse. And as it ceases to move, dust rumbles into the air, and you stand up above it, flicking blood off your dagger. And the chase is over.
Petra catches up to where Chiako is, bends over, puts her hands on her knees a little bit, and just kind of, just deep breathing to regain her breath. She looks up at Chiako and says, I still hit it more times than you did.
Take a fabula point for that.
Thank you.
Are you satisfied with your kill, Chiako?
Not quite. The behavior of it was very strange. Unlike my usual prey, she's going to start her own little diagnosis of this creature.
All right. Well, you notice two things as you begin your initial look over of this creature. The first, you see some kind of metal device sticking out of its back at the base of what you think is its skull. And two, you hear the of the man in its jaws.
Right.
I'm alive.
Yes.
And he's
You know.
shaking. Oh, thank you, sweet host sisters, he says. Do you help him out of the creature's mouth, or are you letting him dig himself or pry himself out?
We'll help him and take a good look at the inside of its mouth.
You pry open the jaws. He kind of rolls/stumbles out, and he is uninjured. Inside of the creature's mouth is what you would expect of a snake, albeit a large one. It seems the snake had just grabbed him and just kind of held him there. So he's kind of moist, but otherwise he was cushioned from any sort of attack or damage.
Are you injured? Scrapes, bruises, puncture wounds?
No, he checks himself. No, well, maybe a few scrapes from when I stumbled before it grabbed me, but I think I am uninjured. Thank goodness.
Petra will get on the communicator at this point. Elisa, she looks back over at the guy. Who do we have? What's your name?
I am Nomark Kabir Ahuja, he says as he straightens himself out and stands there attempting a dignified air.
Bless you.
Yeah, we have the Nomark here. We're gonna need some transported coordinates, and she rattles off some numbers.
About the hostile.
Chiako is currently investigating its skull.
She's going to examine more closely the metal bit coming out of the back of its neck, especially considering how familiar that is.
Looking at it, roll me an intellect and intellect test, please.
That's going to be a 10.
All right. You're looking at it, and you need to look a bit deeper, but it does seem to be sending and receiving signals.
Can I hack into it?
You may hack into it, yes. As you hack into it, a vehicle is sent out to pick up the Nomark, as well as a larger vehicle to bring the body of the Basu back to the landing zone. So you load up both and rejoin Alyssa with the deputy.
That telemetry was good, Elisa. The place is a maze. The whole area is destroyed.
What? I wonder what destroyed it.
In combat, it looks like.
Both of you may take a fabula point. The deputy, who named himself Torin Eccles, comes up, examines the Nomark. Are you well, sir? Everything is fine, Torin. I assume you're giving the sisters your cooperation. As you say, Nomark. Still, we should have you looked at. At which point, the Nomark goes, very well, I will go see my physician. Please coordinate and assist the sisters in attempting to find where these creatures lair. Again, as you say, Nomark. So with that, the Nomark and the entourage depart. Deputy Torin is there and looks at you, Alyssa. Shall we go to my office?
Might as well.
Chiako, I assume you're going to start doing your necropsy. And Petra, what are you going to be doing during all of this?
We are where?
You're in the capital of Nagara, at the city center.
Like, what location within the city center are we in? And how many people are there?
You see no people. Any people that were there either ran or are evacuated at this point. You do see some Planetary Defense Force people coming in to secure the area. And then as for your location in the city center, you seem to be right at the government offices.
Petra will go up to the Defense Force officer leading them. Officer, what's your rank?
Captain Rajmi, ma'am.
Captain, I've been informed by one of my sisters that you have a whole bunch of subterranean underground passages around here that the Basu are striking from, yes?
That would seem to be the case, yes, ma'am.
Show me them, please. I have some work to do. And she pats the demolition charges on her belt.
This way, ma'am. And she takes you to her vehicle, and she brings up some data on a screen showing you a map of the city, as well as a number of what appear to be tunnel entrances. She explains that a while ago we began a subterranean transport project, basically tunnels for vehicles and pedestrian traffic to make passage through the city easier, as well as to keep the city looking beautiful. However, the project got suspended due to budgetary balancing issues, and then has recently in the last month been reinitiated.
Take me to the first one.
Yes, ma'am. And you drive off.
The idea is that Petra is going to go to each one of these and demo the openings so that they cannot be used to strike from again. She's going to do all but one. And the idea is that one is going to be left open from a very defensible point of view so that we can capture or kill anything coming out of it.
That's what I figured you were doing. All right, so you begin your trek off and do that. Chiako, you start cutting into the corpse of this creature, and as you're cutting, you're looking, and the device goes down, and it does indeed seem to connect to the spine at the base of the skull. Based off its sending and receiving of data, you think this is very likely some kind of control device.
There's a couple things I want to determine first. One, if these creatures have the tech integrated into them, like our blue friends aboard, how far gone would this creature be considered? Would it be like the monster that we found in the alley, or closer to those we're training?
You're looking at it, and this is not like them. This is not weaved through their body. This is... You see the surgical scars. They're healed but relatively recent, and it's just a singular device attached to their brain. It does not seem to be touched by the same flesh-warping power that the artifact pieces have.
Right. The next thing I would like to determine is, by hacking into the device, what were the commands given, and can I trace them back?
You connect your suit computers to it, and you start doing your thing. Please roll me insight and insight, and it is not an open check.
That is going to be an 8.
That's not enough. Do you wish to use some fabulous points?
Yes, I will.
Also, don't forget, Ashuri, you have your lucky 7. That would make it a double, which could mean a crit.
That is an option.
We'll use the lucky 7 and go for the crit.
So your lucky 7 turns that 8 into a 14 as a critical. You attach to this thing, you're getting the data feed, and there's some interesting information there. One, you find out that these creatures were definitely in sync with each other because of this device. So this guarantees that the other snakes also have devices in their brains. Going through it, you find out when it snatched the no mark, that registered as a failure. Most interestingly, going through the timestamps, upon seeing you, it was given the command to cease attack.
So they were in sync with each other. They were supposed to cease attacking, but the one who took the no mark, they failed the cease attack.
No. Upon seeing you, they were given the orders to make one last grab for the target and then retreat.
Am I able to determine who the target was?
Well, if you want to spend that opportunity you got, you can use that to reveal that information.
Sure, I'll do that.
You're looking through the information, going through the list of priorities, and it seems that Torin Eccles was the target.
The deputy?
Indeed.
And was I able to determine where these orders were coming from?
No, not in this case. The wireless encryption's pretty good on this one, actually.
What time did their orders start?
As a whole, or in this particular instance?
In this particular instance, when we got the notification that a boss suit attack is happening right now.
They received the command a couple hours before you arrived. It seems there was some stalking time as well as some running and chasing on the boss suit's part, going after the No Mark's entourage. It seems that they were actually at another site when the attack initially happened, and they were trying to make their way to the office buildings in an attempt to reach a more fortified position.
The encryption that is on their control devices, did I find similar encryptions on the drone or the satellite that we came across? Yes.
You did, actually.
What a coinkydink. Can I use that information to help me break into this code?
If you had more time to be more thorough, this encryption is a lot stronger because it involves controlling these creatures. Whoever put these devices in their brains wants to minimize any possibility that control could be taken away from them.
Am I able to remove the device without damaging or destroying it?
Without damaging or destroying the device? Yes. Without damaging or destroying some of the brain matter of the creature if it weren't dead? Not so much.
Sacrifices. I need that device. I would like to work on its encryption in the background.
So you can take it out of the creature's brain easily enough. The creature's dead. So you take it out and begin your decryption. Petra is currently bombing entrances into the tunnel network. Alyssa, what are you doing? You went to the deputy's office in order to go over information. What information are you trying to go over? What kind of questions are you asking?
Well, he invited me, so I assumed he would have a briefing prepared, but if...
So he takes you into his office. It's a fairly Spartan affair. And as said before, again, this man looks familiar. You swear you've met him before. On a screen on the wall, he calls up a map, and he starts showing you times and dates of the various attacks. Chiako, do you send the information you gained from the device to Alyssa?
Yes, I do.
All right, Alyssa. You have that information, and as you are going over the data on the screen, please roll me an open insight and insight check.
Insight and insight. 15.
Very nice. So you learned some interesting facts just kind of crunching the data as it's presented to you. As mentioned previously, the attacks are usually during the night, late evening, or early morning, and it seems to be attacking infrastructure, especially government works. Although there have been some attacks during other times of the day. Interestingly, while there's been lots of structural damage, there's only been some injuries to people and there haven't been any deaths. And looking at the attacks when people were actually involved, you notice that the Nomarch is only there some of the time, but Torin is there each time an attack happens.
Deputy Torin.
Yes, sister?
If you have a general understanding of how these beings are able to travel, or at least what points of entry they're leaving, why have you left those openings open?
We had been hoping to catch them as they came out. However, if we reduce it down to one opening, they'll exit more aggressively than if they think they can come and go as they please.
I see.
We were basically hoping to spring a trap for them.
Are you still assembling the resources for this trap?
We can, yes.
I merely ask because it appears they still managed... If you had placed any security on those entry points, it appears they managed to get out without them responding.
We have noticed that the beasts have been acting with a certain level of cunning that almost seems to be human in nature.
I'll be honest, I'm not terribly familiar with the Basu. Are they known for lacking human intellect?
They tend to be very fierce aliens, but they also tend to be fairly straightforward in their methodologies, from what I understand.
I see. These attacks been going on?
For about 2 weeks now.
So about a week before you sent the distress signal?
Yes, although I had advised the Nomarch that we had a plan and we were going to be taking care of it, he, based off the variant behavior of these Basu, he thought it best to ask the hosts for help.
Is there a reason you weren't able to execute this plan in the week it took us to get here?
I will admit, the plan had not been quite working as I had hoped.
I see. Is there any observed pattern to these locations?
They're all recent or ongoing government infrastructure projects. The attacks tend to happen late at night, or early morning or very late evening, typically when there aren't any people around, although there have been some attacks during the day with people involved.
Has there been any connecting patterns between these attacks? Locations, individuals, tactics that seem to pop up at each of these?
Well, there's been a minimum of injuries and no deaths thus far. That suggests to me that they are not deliberately attempting wide-scale destruction.
I see.
Roll me another insight and insight check.
Ooh, a 9.
All right.
I'm going to reroll that with a fabulous point. I will invoke Agent of the Queendom Bureaucracy. 18, yeah, that's a little better.
He's the one who made the list about where the attacks happened and who was there, and you get the impression that this gentleman is not stupid, so with those facts in mind, he does seem to be holding back the fact that he was a commonality amongst all of them.
Would you say this move to kidnap the Nomarch is a new development of their tactics?
That was unexpected, yes. But they haven't killed anybody, so I assume that if they decide to take the Nomarch, they wanted him for a particular purpose. That purpose is not yet revealed, however.
Hopefully we'll be able to shut down this little problem of yours. And you can get back to unification of your lovely community.
Traditionally, the Nomarchs have valued both functionality and aesthetic when it comes to urban design.
Indeed.
If you have any other questions, Please
I
ask.
don't know who to ask. Good day, Deputy.
Good day, sister. With that previous role, not only do you learn that he seems to be ignoring the fact that he was at each of the attacks when it attacked people, he's giving you due deference, but you get the impression that it is forced.
Well, I am gonna head out, and when I'm a good distance away, I'm gonna call the others. I just had a debrief with the deputy.
Anything enlightening?
Go ahead.
He's a smart man, definitely smart enough to notice that he was present at every incident.
So he's suspicious or willfully stupid.
Either way, he definitely knows that he is involved, and he is hiding that information.
Suspicious it is.
Let's arrest him and interrogate him.
On what charge, Petra?
We don't have to have a charge just to question somebody. We can hold him for his own security. They have been going after him, right?
I would rather he not know we're completely onto him before we have done any investigation. We already lost the one potential witness we have to challenge his narrative of situations. Let's try not to bungle this investigation further, shall we?
Bungled? Do you know how awesome Chiako was? And I got some great shots in, too. There's nothing bungled about that whatsoever.
I would advise, if we run across the others, that we keep them alive. They were not under their own control.
As Chiako has observed, I'm very impressed that you were able to use extreme lethal force against the non-violent saboteurs. But perhaps we could try capturing one.
Hey, we thought there was an immediate risk to the life of one of the civilians.
Yes, and I am not lecturing you for that. But I am saying that now that we are more aware of the situation, let's at least try to be a bit more subtle.
Everyone take a fabula point.
Thank you. Fine. My subtlety will be letting you be subtle. I'm setting a bunch of bombs. Gonna close up all the entrances but one, and we'll wait for whatever to come out of there, and then we'll...
You're assuming they have to come out of there. If they know that all the entrances have been compromised, they're going to definitely know the one that wasn't compromised as a trap. They might just try to find another exit.
In which case that tells us something, doesn't it?
And what does it tell us?
That they are far more intelligent than it seems the locals give them credit for, and that they have their own way of making their way up to the surface. That would tell us that they are not reliant upon what the locals have created.
Or that whoever is controlling them knows the other ways they can get around. And the one who's controlling them knows how they've gotten past security.
Yep. It's just like science.
It's not science, that is mostly speculation.
I've heard scientists say that no result is still a result.
That is a tautology? Sure.
I mean, fine, look, if you're going to bring astrology into this, I'm just going to go set up the attack out.
Chiako, you're still near the body, yes?
Yes, of course.
Roll me an insight check, please.
An 11?
Alright, that's enough. As you're listening to this conversation on your coronet, with the encryption going in the background, you hear the movement of light steps behind you.
She is going to swiftly turn and face the one that approaches.
You see a hooded figure, but they're not approaching you. They go up and, with a gloved hand, touch the body of the Basu.
From her crouched position, can she see more of this hooded figure?
You look, and serpentine eyes stare at the body. With a hood on, this person can fake being a human. But looking at the serpentine features in their face and the patches of scale around their neck, this is clearly not a human. And as you look at that, notice that this individual looks over at you as if seeing you for the first time. Nictating membranes blink over its eyes, and they say to you, "Why have you done this?"
We thought it was hostile. It kidnapped the No-Mark. We took action, later realized that it was not under its control. I apologize.
They were a child.
This is what a child of your kind looks like?
One from among many. And they fall to their knees, forehead pressed against the larger Basu's body.
Still in her crouched position, she's going to shuffle herself backwards to give this new individual space and ensure her weapons are stowed away.
He seems to mutter some things in a language you do not know, and then looks at you. Why did you chop up the body?
I was looking for more that might be attached to the control device to see if it was similar to others I have found on another world.
A control device that explains things?
Well, I assume she has the control device connected to her suit so she can continue what she's doing, right?
Yes.
So I am going to have her show the device to this individual to demonstrate that this is what it was that she was getting.
He looks at it with a face of disgust and further grief. What will you do when you find the others?
Well, now that we know that they were not of their own mind, we are going to take a more careful approach. Do you know anything about what is going on here?
Roll me a willpower and willpower check, please.
That is a 5.
Do you want to re-roll that?
Yes, and use my theme of mercy.
You may.
An 11. Yay!
This roll was to kind of get past his defenses. He's in a very delicate state at the moment. And what was your question again, sorry?
Do you know anything about what is going on?
On the world, we are attempting to make our own. One of our brood pits was stolen, and I managed to track it here. And it seems someone has shackled my kin to perform grievous acts.
So the brood pit was stolen, and those that came from the brood pit are ones like this, and the 2 that got away from us, maybe more.
Yes, that seems to be.
Is there anything else you know that could help us?
I will tell you more, but only if you agree to give it to me when it is found.
Well, I want to immediately say yes. I need to confer with my sisters to ensure that this brood pit is not evidence that we need to hold on to for the time being. If we can even hold on to such a thing. I don't know. Would you mind meeting with them?
I will do this.
Who's going to contact the other 2 and request that they meet her where she's currently at? Do I have a name for you?
You may call me Ken Galva.
Ken Galva? She's going to slowly raise herself to her full height and extend her arm in greeting, not knowing if this Basu knows what a handshake is, but she'll do it anyway. My name's Chiako. I'm of the Silent Luminaries.
He looks at you and extends his hand. There's an awkward pause as you wait for him to take it, but he doesn't know that's what you're supposed to do.
She will take his for him and give the shake before letting go.
He shakes back and just waits at that point. Do both of you come over, or is it just Alyssa that comes over?
I'm assuming Petra is going to be pretty busy doing what she's doing, so finding all the places, setting all the charges, probably an hour or 2.
All right. So, Alyssa, you can get there in relatively quick order.
All right.
The one called Chiako says I must speak to you to get your word.
This is Ken Galva. He is here to retrieve the Basu children that were stolen and the brood pit they came out of. He wants to take the brood pit home.
So, am I correct in the unspoken part of this is the saboteurs being controlled by the odd box you found, Chiako, are these brood children?
The ones here, and he points to the dead Basu. These kin are children.
Great. Chiako,
Yes.
please tell me you've called in a shuttle so we're not just leaving a corpse of a child apparently in the middle of the street.
I was a bit caught up in the moment. I apologize. I'll do that now.
Emphasize the importance of haste.
She is going to be hasty in this instruction.
Jax, you get a hold of Jax, and he's just like, oh, dang, I'll be right down.
Yeah, please. Pingolva, was it?
Yes.
Where is the world that these children were kidnapped from?
I do not know what you would call it, but we call the planet Nazes.
Nazas. I assume the planet's not in this system?
No.
Is it relatively nearby, or Did whoever kidnapped these children travel a notable distance?
It was not too long of a journey from there to here.
How long ago was this kidnapping?
60 days?
60 days.
I had to search a number of planets between here and there.
Makes sense.
So it took me some time.
If you were to return home now, how long would it take you to get there?
7 days, maybe 10, if the travel was uninterrupted.
So that gave whoever our target is about 50 days or so to get to the current point that we are at.
Assuming they didn't waste any time.
Indeed.
They had to put the devices into the kin.
Yes. Doesn't seem like the type of operation you could do too quickly. Tell me, does Naviz have an embassy with the Queendom?
He's making sure he understood the words correctly. No, our kinds, your kin and my kin, rarely get along.
Now, personally, I find not getting along makes embassies all the more important, but we'll just figure it out. Well, I am sorry about this injustice your people have suffered, and will strive to correct it.
Chaco's going to start taking the time to stitch back together this Basu child.
If you swear to me on what you hold sacred that I may take the brute pit, I will tell you what I know of its requirements.
I swear, once I have sufficiently collected them, and I am in possession of sufficient proof to know that you are the one who rightfully should take them where they need to be, they will be placed under your guardianship.
He nods.
I will apologize. The second one might take time given the lack of an embassy.
He nods, processes everything you said. Very well. A brood pit is best kept underground in a warm and stable place. If these are not so, then it risks great variance in the children that come forth.
Petra,
But
you're about to make a stable place very unstable. You might not want to do that right now.
Petra, we've received new intelligence. We might delay your plans. We might want to re-review them given the introduction of new information.
sounds good. Just got a few things I've got to blow up, and then I'll join you. Sound good?
No, don't do that.
No,
That's what I just told you to stop.
Okay. This must be pretty solid evidence if you're going to tell me not to blow things up, so...
We've released evidence that the saboteurs might be children being controlled with a brain device.
Children?
Children.
Yes, children.
God damn it. Okay, that really does send my plan up into smoke, doesn't it?
Yes. Yes, let's not explode children, please.
Well, the explosion was to make sure that these, apparently, children couldn't get up to the surface in most places, but if you're also saying that making the ground unstable equals bad, then, well, nuts. Okay.
They might be staying down in the tunnels for their own welfare, so we might want to avoid possibly doing infrastructure damage that might endanger them.
Copy that. Okay, I'll send some of the Defense Force soldiers to retrieve the, might I dare say, excellently placed explosives, and I'll meet you where?
We're moving the corpse of the victim back to the ship. I say we recollect there and try to work out a plan.
Out of curiosity, who knows that this is a child and that they're dead?
Currently,
I'm the Basu friend.
the source of the intel, and us three.
Perhaps we should mention to everybody else here that this is a prisoner for interrogation. If they think we've killed it, and that was the idea, that we are to kill these children, maybe thinking that one is alive would mess up their plans.
We don't know who they are, so we don't know where to leak this intel, which is why I propose we reorganize for a briefing so we can plan out. In just 1 hour, we've had too many revelations that most of our initial assumptions of this entire situation have been reoriented.
Oh, I hate it when you're right. Okay. Yeah, we'll collect the demolition charges, and I'll meet you back at the ship.
You collect your wayward explosives, you gather up to the body, and at that point, Jax arrives and helps load everything onto the shuttle. And from there, you ascend to the ship to figure out what's going on. I assume Chiako and Danu are dealing with the body?
That is correct.
Presumably.
You take the body off to be properly stored and preserved so it can be given its appropriate rituals later. Also, I imagine Alyssa probably considers it evidence.
Technically.
Kingalva looks at your ship with no small amount of curiosity, having never been on a human ship, let alone a host ship. Though he does remain guarded. He is, after all, on an alien ship. I assume you'll proceed to Eofred's ready room to plan things out. You get there, Eofred is there. Begin the planning.
Alisa,
Yes?
you have a better idea of this location than, well, any of us. What civic projects were attacked? Like, we know that they're the new ones, but which ones were attacked?
Jim?
Going over the data in your head, what with your mind palace and all that, all the projects that were attacked were ones spearheaded or under the direct supervision of Deputy Torin Eccles.
What was the nature of projects that the deputy was personally overseeing? Or were they just random little projects? A transport hub here, a public works there.
Seemingly random. He doesn't seem to have any great big project he's working on. These are all just small pieces of the larger civic improvement effort.
The projects that were being sabotaged appear to be projects that were being directly overseen by the deputy. If there is any pattern to what projects he is personally taking on, I did not spot any. It just appears that the administrative labor rather is being divided up various officials, and these are the ones under him.
Somebody has some really good battlefield intel on what his movements are. Where are they getting that from?
It's at that point Chiako enters the ready room.
So, what are we talking about?
Mostly speculation. Do you have an update on the miner?
I mean, it hasn't risen from the dead.
I would hope not.
That is not the power we have, says Kingalva.
I don't know. I haven't studied you guys long enough yet.
Jericho has a morbid and somewhat tasteless sense of humor. I advise you to ignore her.
This is good to know. He takes a step away.
Lisa, that's not how we make friends.
It is not.
I was just wondering, speculating, where the officer are getting the intel to track this guy. Kingalva, do you have anything that you might want to let us know about?
These are children being mind-controlled. I assume it is whoever is controlling them has access to this information.
Given these are civic projects, GM, are they public knowledge?
That is a good question. You check the local data sphere, and yes, they are public information.
I don't think we need that deep an intelligence office operation to get this information.
But to know which one he's at?
If you know which projects he's running, just wait till he's there. Have an observer.
Who's doing the observing? And how do we get a talk with them?
At which point Eofred finally chimes in. Well, there are any number of ways. Our new Basu associate was able to move around fairly well with an appropriate disguise. The individual might have blended in, or, considering we've already encountered their remote devices, it's entirely possible that they have something keeping an eye on things from a safe distance.
Jacko, do you have a report on the device that was being used to control the victim?
How's my hacking in the background going?
It's still going, although if you wish to make an insight check to push that final leg, you might be able to get something out of it now. Let's make it an open check. You're kind of peeling through layers as you go along.
That'll be 13.
Your background processes have done a lot of digging, and so you'll get some answered questions. Let's see. I'll give you 3 questions you can ask.
How does the device control the subject?
Well, it's connected directly to the brain. So basically it sends signals into their brain, compelling them to action.
And these signals are directly from the satellite, or?
Actually, the satellite is on the network of the control device, but is not the control device. And it seems to be part of some kind of wireless network. So what's your second question?
What can be deduced about the maker of the device through the device's construction?
So looking at the device, it's very piecemeal in its construction. Now, the pieces themselves aren't shoddy, but you can tell looking at it that they're from different manufacturers, in some cases different, factions, for want of a better term. With that in mind, if you're to hazard a guess, these parts were gotten on the black markets or the gray markets. Some other pieces that look, for want of a better term, commercial in origin. Some that seem to be homemade, all put together.
Very eclectic. All right.
And I guess you'd say it's implied, but just to be sure, that also implies that a number of the parts could have come from off-world.
Based on what we now know of the device's construction, would you say that there's any rare or very complex tools that were needed to assemble or even operate the device?
Nothing rare, but this level of construction sophistication does require a certain amount of training. Training one could get in the military or from any decent techsmith.
That's about all I can give you right now, Lisa.
Something to start with.
So, the target is that Torin guy. Are we thinking that they're targeting those places specifically because he's there? Or perhaps there is some other reason? Like, what would happen if these projects failed? Or perhaps... we could always suspect he's sabotaging his own projects, perhaps. But that might be too obvious. Someone else could be specifically sabotaging his projects. Or perhaps there's some interconnected workings thingamajig that might need these projects specifically to fail because of some connection we're not seeing.
Let's lay out what we know. 1. We know someone obtained and assembled and executed the technology to effectively mind control a collection of alien youth to commit sabotage of a series of civic projects overseen by a single civil servant. 2. All of the sabotage, the one thread we have that connects them all, is that this one civil servant is supervising, and not only supervising them, but is present during the attacks. 3. The youths are likely hiding somewhere underground that is warm and humid, was it? Stable. So what little we currently have tells us that this individual has access to resources, but not resources that would allow them to turn to more normal means to resolve this issue. Oh, one other important detail that does stand out. No one has died.
And don't forget, says Eofred, you showed up, they withdrew.
Exactly. So there appears to be a pattern of behavior. While they clearly wish to commit sabotage, there is a clear intent to limit the damage they are committing. This unknown party appears to be uninterested in engaging with a serious response. And I'll throw one extra detail in there. The deputy seems fundamentally unhappy about our approach and, how shall we say, interference in this inconvenience for them.
Yeah, you'd think he'd be happy if he's the target all the time.
Well, the fact that it's possible he's incompetent and did not notice he seems to be at every attack, but regardless, he did not opt to share such a fact with us.
Also, don't forget that you'd swear you've met this man before.
Right. That is something Lisa is not going to share with the others.
Oh, pretty please.
See, this is why I hate intrigue. On a battlefield, it's really easy. Somebody wants something, you know what they want. You can either defend and you're either successful or not. I can't figure out who stands to benefit from this. And so this is frustrating.
Maybe he gets hazard pay if his projects are attacked.
At which point Eofred says, however, when the snake grabbed the no mark, didn't you say that was an accident and the deputy was the target?
Yeah. the mill mark was the incorrect target, but was also completely unharmed, just being held. So had the correct target been chosen, I would suspect would also be unharmed.
But why would he target himself like that, if he is behind this?
Draw suspicion away. That's what I would do.
I feel, in the time I've known you, Chiako, that I would not use you as the baseline for what a normal person would do.
Oh, shucks.
Kingalva leans down to Eofred and says, "Did she just burn the other one? That's the phrase you use, yes?" Eofred just goes, "Indeed."
I take it as a compliment.
Maybe he... how does he stand to benefit if he's putting all this on? Like, what?
We're assuming too many factors here. For all we know that this is being operated by an unknown third party with their own motives and agenda that are fundamentally at odds with any other of the known players. Until we have more evidence of exactly why anything is being done, we should probably rein in our speculation to mostly hypothesis.
Petra gets a very, very frustrated look on her face, takes a couple of very deep, calming breaths, and then goes, sits over on one of the side chairs, like next to a table, draws her pistol, starts disassembling it, grabs a cleaning kit from her thigh pouch, and just starts cleaning the gun sort of absent-mindedly.
Tell me, Kingalva, was it again?
Yes.
You said these youth need to stay in a space that is both warm and stable?
The brood pit needs to be in a place that is underground, warm, and stable.
What's a stable mean?
Not geologically active. No great movements, no earthquakes, no collapsing.
Does anyone know if this city has a mass transit?
That's one of the things that's currently being built.
I assume this construction is causing a lot of instability. Would the construction be enough to cause a disruption for this nest?
Possibly. In that case, wouldn't the construction individuals know where the stable places are and stable places are not?
Indeed. The biggest threat we currently have is that these youth are at a location that has to be underground, warm, and stable. If the construction is creating enough displacement that it would not make for a suitable place for them to rest, then maybe we could use that to find a location that would theoretically be also warm.
At which point Eofred says, "We can get the construction data easy enough."
Construction data and blueprints of the underground passages if they have them, which they should.
We have some stun weapons in the armory, I believe.
Get them.
Yeah, for taking down, like, large game. Harold.
Me.
Can we say that we have these? Should I spend a fabula point or two?
Spend a fabula point.
So I'm going to spend that fabula point, and then I'm going to say that these are stun weapons used for taking down, like, large game. Kind of heavy, not as fast moving, but hard hitting.
Alright. Make sure that they are calibrated so they do not do too much damage to the miners.
Do we want them to short out the control chip?
If you can make them precise enough to do that without causing any neurological damage, I would absolutely endorse that.
Do be careful,
Yes.
says Kingalva.
As I said, make sure that they do not come to any harm, but if it can be done, that would certainly solve some of our problems.
Petra looks over at Chiako. You're the expert right now on how these chips work, and you're kind of also more of our expert on, like, high-tech reconfiguring of stuff. So want to give me a hand? Or maybe I give you a hand?
Sounds like a fun project to me.
You two go off and start readying the weapons. Alyssa, I assume you connect to the local data sphere again and get the information and get the construction and geological information that comes with it.
Yeah, pull the civic infrastructure plans, maps, pull the construction data, all that good stuff.
You also cross-reference that with the data from Chiako's hacking. And it takes a little bit of crunching, but you have good systems and you're a fast worker, what with the transhuman brain and all.
All that good stuff, yeah.
And then as you're cross-referencing that, reducing the number of possibilities on where they might be. Galva is looking at the options left as you present them. No. Assuming whoever did this has any firm grasp of the Basu. Stop. As you're going through the screens. Looking at the images being projected from the table in the ready room, he looks at a section of the map that links to a entrance to the underground, not too far from your original landing zone. He goes, if we go in through this entrance, I think they might be here. And he points at it's a bit of a central hub, deeper underground. If they have figured out anything about how my kin should be, they will be here.
Well, I hate to assume, but if they were able to put a piece of technology into their brain and not fry it, that implies some level of understanding of their biology.
I shudder to think at the possible trial and error that they might have gone through.
Unfortunately.
Yeah, let's not think about that.
Petra, I believe we are going to go scouting.
Finally! She's already running towards the armory as she says that. She actually shouts that over her shoulder. The weapons, these stun, big game weapons, I'm imagining them as looking like the glider wing cannons from Stargate SG-1. So it's a large two-handed weapon with a strap that goes over crossways. So for Petra, she'll be stabilizing it with her offhand left hand, firing it with her right hand, and then, the whole thing hangs crossways underneath her right arm.
Cool. With that, do you all head down again?
All right, down we go.
You call up Jax. He's currently trying to keep Yarek off his leg. He goes, no, I'm working. We're heading back down already, he says.
Yeah.
All right, let go, I have to work. And Yarek's just like, okay, fine.
Tell him he better behave or I'm going to tell his mama.
You catch that? Yes! You hear him say it as he sounds like he's going down the hall. So you load back into the shuttle and head on down. Arriving back at your original landing zone near the city center, you see various local defense forces mining the area, keeping it safe. At this point, it is late in the evening. Between that and the attack, seems most folks have gone home, so things are quiet. And what local military and law enforcement you see you, give you an appropriate salute, and knowing that you're on important business, being who you are, they do not hinder you as you go about your task.
Petra want to take charge?
Hell yes, I want to take charge on this. I am sick of just standing around thinking. So we find our way to whatever opening is going to get us nearest where we want to be.
It looks like it's being set up to be the entrance to the underground transit.
Lisa, Petra says on the way down.
Yeah?
Just some way we can keep that deputy under surveillance as we do this. I'm kind of curious how he's going to respond to all this when we're not around.
Well, we would need someone to surveil him. And if we want to use a local asset to surveil him, we would have to go through the proper legal process, which might tip our hand.
Okay, I understand that we're not allowed to, shoot people without, some sort of piece of paper, and I guess I'm okay with that usually, but why do we have to have legal permission to just follow somebody and make sure they're not gonna, murder somebody? Us?
Because we don't know that they're going to do that. So we better make sure we know. You can't unshoot a person.
This isn't even about shooting. I just want to have somebody follow him.
As for following him, we would need someone to do the following. And I will be honest, the crew of our ship is not trained for espionage actions like that.
And I am going to where the kin are.
Oh, and we cannot ask random civilians to perform high-risk operations like that. If they get shot, it makes us look bad, among other things.
Do you want the deputy followed right now, or can it wait?
I was just thinking that maybe one of our new trainees might just follow at a distance and kind of the eyes and ears while we're underground. I really kind of want to know what he's going to do when he thinks we're not watching. Just following, no bombing, no stabbing, no falling from high places, no poison, no. And this just kind of trails off.
I've already stated my opinion on the civilians that we are putting through an unofficial boot camp. That opinion has not changed.
Oh.
Also, Petra, they're blue. They're gonna stand out like a lot.
Well, I'm not big on paperwork, but blue skin mutants, yeah, that's there. Oh, let's just do this thing, I guess.
King Golf is just like, I feel like I am missing something, listening to your conversation. But that is not for now. We must find the kin.
Indeed. Priorities are priorities.
And you proceed underground. You have to slow yourselves down a little bit as you go through the tunnels. Kingalva is faster than a regular human, but not as fast as you. But his serpentine eyes allows him to keep up in the dark.
I'm assuming Petra's taking lead.
I wouldn't try to stop her.
Okay, so yeah, Petra will take the lead. Her helmet is closed. She has actually activated her chemical and biological fields just in case. Not knowing what these birthing pits or whatever are going to be shooting off or emanating. And then she's using the, I'm assuming we have like dark vision, or predator vision or something like that.
Your helmets have night vision, yes.
So she's going to use that, but she takes the lead. And she's just going to sweep the corridor left and right, looking for something big to shoot.
You're going through the tunnels, following the map. Your suit's sensors feel the increase in ambient heat. You think this is going to be the right place. Following the tunnel leads to, as mentioned before, what looks like a central hub of what's going to be a transit system. Corresponding that with the other places that you know the Basu have emerged from, this is a strategically good spot for that. This gives them a wide range of movement within the city. As you enter into this central hub, you see the Brute Pit. If it weren't in a small chasm, it would be a large, fleshy sack that almost seems to squirm in place. You see what looks like, if they were opened, would be places where the young Basu would emerge from, and luckily it seems that there aren't any births occurring at the moment.
That wriggles like jelly.
Yeah, I'm thinking like some bubble tea. What? No, I'm not. What are you? Jelly? Really?
Oh.
Both of you take a fabulous point. And with your enhanced hearing, you can hear flesh wiggling, slurping through this sack.
Hey, Kingalva?
Yes?
Why does the need to be, like, stable?
My kind is prone to a great variance in form, and that is directly influenced by the stability of where we place our brute pits.
So, what would you say about the stability from the juveniles we encountered?
Their pit was taken from a stable position when it was stolen from us. They did not have a great many mutations, so it seems that our continued gestation was solid. It's at that point, on a ledge a little bit above you, that can see all of you, a figure emerges from a small passage, dressed in civilian clothes, but with a Queendom military all-weather jacket, I guess you could say. Seems to be a 20-ish year old human man, or young man. He looks at you and says, "By the Queen and the Mothers, I greet you, sisters." And that pings all of you, because by the Queen and the Mothers is a turn of phrase you only ever really hear in the host auxiliary.
Lisa?
We greet you. Tell me, what are you doing down here in an incomplete construction site?
My business is my own, and I ask that you please leave. Alyssa, roll me an insight and insight check, an open one.
18.
Oh, that's very good. You're looking at this kid, and it's almost like looking into a gender-bent mirror. This kid looks like he could be the son of someone you used to serve with, an auxiliary woman by the name of Taylor Alexis. You served with her on a ship, Unity's Grace.
I understand you think you're doing us a favor for warding us off, but this is an investigation.
My issue is not with you. I have no desire to see you hurt.
Come down here and talk to us.
Chaka would like to start trying to work her way around stealthily.
Blend into the shadows, if you will.
Chiako, as you do that, roll me an inside check of your own.
That will be a 13.
A 13 is enough. As you begin to step into the shadows, notice another person present in this conversation that has not officially made themselves known.
Does this person notice me moving away?
This person notices you noticing them. It is Torin Eccles.
I'm going to silently alert my sisters that Torin is here.
Where is he relative to this conversation being held?
She's going to ping them.
He is to the right and back of where you're standing at the moment, staying in the shadows of one of the ledges on the other side of this larger room.
I see Chiako has Adam. Unless we need to file some paperwork, Elisa.
I'm running out of ways to say we cannot just execute people without evidence of something.
I'm not saying we kill him. I'm just saying, hit him in the back of the head with something and, make sure he doesn't interfere with our investigation.
Chiako, shadow him. If he looks like he's going to intercept within reason.
Ma'am. Of course.
As you're silently having this conversation over your cornets, the young man says, "My issue is not with you. I had no intention of hurting anyone. Grabbing the no mark was a mistake."
Ah, so you are related to what we're investigating.
Well, if you're here, that seems pretty obvious to me.
You have to know that we're not leaving without concluding our investigation, right?
What is it you need, sisters?
I have questions, and I want them answered.
Well, then ask. You can sense he's frustrated, but you also sense the genuine deference in his voice.
First question. Is the Ness of Basu here?
Is your helmet damaged? It's right over there. Although the Basu I have in control at the moment are in reserve. As he says this, you can see a device in his hand with a small screen and a number of buttons.
Basu you have. So you don't control all of the Basu that have been performing this campaign of sabotage?
I control the Basus that have emerged from that, he says.
Did you just find them in this state?
I found the birthing sac, I guess you could call it. The rude pit, says Kingalva. And when the snake creatures emerged, I was, they're typically not at full strength, so I was able to attach the devices to them and go from there.
Where did you find the devices?
Oh, I built them.
You built devices that give you the ability to control sapient beings.
I built devices used to control animals? They are children! Screams Kingalva.
I have a shot.
Line up the shot, but don't tell it till I tell you.
Gotcha.
I didn't... He starts freaking out a little bit.
Look.
It's like, I didn't know? I thought they were just animals?
That's not going to sound great in court, but you being cooperative is definitely going to make what happens after this a lot different. So I'm going to ask you to come down here.
I'm so close.
Let me ask you this. You Taylor's kid?
Taylor's... He stops, looks at you. You knew my mother?
I served with her in the Unity's Grace. You look a lot like her.
That's what I'm told, he says. You should know she's passed on.
I've heard. I don't want to honor her memory by punching her kid's face in, so believe me when I say I am interested in the best outcome possible right now. So when I ask you to come down here to talk, trust me, I'm doing this as a favor.
If you want to honor her, bring me her killer.
Oh?
Torin
That's quite the accusation.
Eccles.
Torin Eccles.
It's at that point Torin is slowly moving to try to exit.
Chiako is going to pounce.
The character. It might be more valuable for you to follow him than to immediately jump him.
Fine. Chiako does not pounce. She she's going to follow him.
Torin is withdrawing, and at first you think he might be heading back to the surface, but he's going through another tunnel, taking him to another entrance in this central chamber. One that leads up and is on the same level as the young man.
Now, he noticed me noticing him before. Does he notice me following him?
Let's see. He got an 8. He does not notice you tailing him.
Excellent.
Alyssa, as you're talking, you remember the Unity's Grace. You served on the ship about 20-ish years ago, and you actually transferred from it to the ship that you were on before you started this whole adventure with Shooty and Stabby. And shortly after you transferred off, the ship went missing in the Dreaming and was later found destroyed. While there has been some speculation on what destroyed it, no official conclusion was reached.
Look, I get you're nervous, but I am here to make sure justice happens. And if you have information that points at the Unity Grace's destruction as not merely a tragic accident, but a direct result of malicious intent, I, for one, am very interested in that information.
Give me Torin Eccles, and I'll give you the control, I'll give you the brew pit, I'll give you the control, and I'll have him tell you everything.
That is not how this works. You surrender yourself into my custody, and I will do everything in my power to make sure justice happens.
You see tears starting to form at his eyes. You don't know, you didn't see what happened to her. She wasn't on the Unity's Grace when it was lost. She had gotten a temporary transfer off ship, so she could give birth to me under a sky, as she liked to say. And then, while he begins that little thing, we cut over to Chiako. You see Torin Eccles, he's on a small landing, and he's pulling out a gun. You can see him lining up a shot.
Chiako is going to grab him from behind and maneuver the hand that is pointing the gun at his thigh while she restrains the other.
Roll me a dexterity plus insight, and don't forget your transhuman bonus.
I suppose this is a special enough occasion to go transhuman.
You are a transhuman super soldier.
Yes, but this means I give you that special thing, doesn't it?
It does.
I may have to write this down in my diary.
Don't make fun of me. That is a 15.
That is enough. So you manage to get up behind him, twist his gun hand into his thigh. He shoots his thigh. Then you pin his other arm behind him. The young man looks over, sees Torin being held, and it looks like he's going to go for the control device. Alyssa, if you want to try to distract him or talk him down from it.
I take him.
All right, Petra. Shooting him, shooting the device. What are you doing?
I'm going to shoot the device. And can we say I've been aiming this whole time?
Yes.
I got a 13 with doubles.
All right. So that's a hit with doubles, so you get yourself an opportunity. How do you want to spend that opportunity? Do you just destroy the thing, or do you shoot it out of his hand, leaving it intact because you're just that good a shot?
I'm going to fry it so it can't be used, and I'm not going to touch him in the process.
So you hit it, you fry it, at which point he looks at it and goes, oh, no. There's a pause, a pregnant breath, and he goes, oh, thank the queen. At which point he goes, that could have ended so very badly. It's at that point that a very large Basu, like the size of the 3 you saw before, together, with human-like arms coming out of its sides, and a comparatively much more humanoid-looking face. It rises, and it seems to be at attention. It seems you managed to partially trigger one of the auto commands, but luckily your frying of it didn't set off any other issues that might have arisen. At which point, Torin just looks at this and goes, starts cursing expletives.
Kid, I'm going to give you one last chance to get down here, or else I'm going to come up there, and it's not going to be fun if I have to come up there.
Take a plot point.
She means it. Trail's up there. She's cranky and grumpy, and she's grumpy.
She is proportionally large enough to give you a spanking.
The young man comes down. Chiako, are you dragging Torin down?
First, she's going to twist his gun hand in a way that he drops the weapon and proceed to bind both his arms together behind him. And then she will start pushing him forward.
He's struggling, but strength-wise, he's no match for you.
Your hubris hurts, doesn't it?
You look at him, and he is looking at you with a bitter hatred you've not seen on someone's face in quite a long time. The young man comes down, you drag down Torin, literally drag down Torin, and you have them both there.
Good lord, these two hate each other like their father and son.
He is my father.
Yep.
Oh, good lord. Petra just looks at the ground, shakes her head.
At which point, Torin looks at him. I don't have any kids. Oh, really? Really? You get my mother, Taylor Alexis, pregnant with me, and you say you have no kids? At which point, he looks like he's about to say something, but stops himself.
Chiako?
She kicks the back of his legs.
That is not what I was going to ask for. Take him further down the tunnel. I don't want him to hear the initial interrogation of his alleged son.
Looking at their faces, while he definitely resembles his mother, they both share the same kind of angry face. So
she's gonna hoist him back up and start dragging him away.
You hear the grunts of pain as the leg that got shot drags against the ground. And you have the young man.
Alright.
My name is Davorn Alexis. Taylor Alexis is my mother.
Alright. Well, this new case you dropped on my lap is certainly fascinating, and I'm going to definitely look into that, but I need to resolve one case first. So, the Basu. How did you find them?
I was doing some planetary surveying. I have the task I set to myself, but I still need to pay the bills. That's when I came across the brood pit. Thought they were just animals. Thought I could use them as a weapon.
There would already be ethical concerns just abducting animals to wield them as weapons, but yes, you did, in fact, kidnap some sapient beings.
At which point, Kingalva comes up and starts punching the kid.
Don't. Lisa says once the first punch is landed. Petra, please.
Petra will grab his collar, pull him back, and off the ground just slightly.
You can pull him back, but not pull him off the ground. But then eventually he stops struggling and just focuses on breathing. Says Davorn.
Apparently, you also kidnapped a quote-unquote brood pit full of children, so, as you can imagine, the Basu are not pleased.
Yeah.
For better or worse, that's a pretty open-shut case. We'll let the court system resolve that. Now, on to the new investigation.
I gotta ask, you really did all this? And Petra she's got her cannon slung across her back now, so she has both hands free. She's got the Basu in one hand, she waves around with her offhand. You did all this everything here because you're mad at your dad. Like, really?
I mean, the accusation's a bit more than being mad. The accusation that the young Alexis here presented us with is that the deputy is in fact a murderer.
My mother took the loss of the Unity's grace hard because she realized he was the reason it got destroyed. Mother was high-ranking in the auxiliary. She had access to a lot of systems, and he used her codes to sabotage the ship. Now, she couldn't directly prove it. She had no physical evidence of it. And if he was willing to do this, she didn't trust going to the authorities. So she just kept that inside, and she blamed herself. And over the years, it eventually reached a point where she got more careless and agreed to do the more dangerous jobs that she could get until it finally got her.
It me?
There was a risky bit of zero-gravity construction work. She was careless, and she died.
Yeah.
So, yes, I want to kill the man who killed my mother.
I think Alicia's going to have trouble with that. She's kind of big on due process.
Well, you can understand why I decided to go around due process.
Was that an admission against interest, Alicia? I think that's how you call it, right?
It's a bit more complex than that, but yes. Regardless,
I listen.
Yes, you do. Your testimony, while sincere, is not very sufficient, especially given your conduct around it. Why would he destroy the ship?
From everything I was able to gather, he was sent onto the ship to make sure it eventually got destroyed.
Oh. So it was your mother's belief that he was a agent of another power?
Yes, and he used her to perform the action.
Well, your opinion, sadly, is not evidence, but it is something I can actually investigate.
Given the sensitivity of these brood pits, she looks over at Java.
Yes, Brute Pit.
Given the sensitivity of these brood pits, perhaps we should have this conversation somewhere else.
I was going to say, King Galva, given the youth are here, is there anything we can do to aid in the transferring of these youth back to your planet?
Some things come to mind. I will make a list for you.
Mm-hmm. Also, I would request a list of authorities that can be contacted so we can just properly coordinate this, so that there is a proper legal record of both the incident and the return.
I will contact those above me.
Yes, that would be most helpful.
Chiako, are you doing anything with Torin while this interrogation happens?
Oh, whispering sweet nothings into the ears of her newest special friend.
Very nice.
I think that's worth a fabulous point, yeah?
It is, yes, you may have another fabulous point.
Why, thank you.
So, Alyssa, does that end the interrogation for now? Do you want to talk
The interrogation of that's definitely going to conclude the interrogation with Davorn. Because of the particular sensitivities involving what appears to be a species that is not, or a world that is not under Queendom authority, I think we're going to have to transfer you to the bridge of our ship until we can figure out what the punishment for this is.
He just nods wordlessly.
Petra, call down the shuttle to transport the prisoner.
Righto.
I'm going to interrogate our friendly deputy.
You head down the tunnel to where Torin is. He's laying down, trying to minimize the pain in his leg. He looks up at you. Torin Eccles, serial number 38972.
Wait, are you submitting yourself as a prisoner of war?
You have me pinned. You have your psychopath listing off what she intends to do to me. How am I to take this other than as a prisoner?
I'm just flirting with him, I swear.
You just want all the fabulous points tonight, don't you?
I'm going to be honest with you, Deputy. My intention of this interrogation was to find evidence of something I could charge you with other than opening fire on the young man from behind, so you just outright confessing you're an enemy combatant is actually making my job significantly easier, so thank you for that, I guess.
Gives you that same bitter look that he gave Chiako earlier.
Those eyes really put me in the mood. I want to cut them open so bad.
Petra, inform the shuttle that we're picking up a second prisoner.
Man, the size of this drama is going to take up a third slot. Yeah, righto.
Jax brings the shuttle over. Not too long. He stayed parked. And you put them both into the shuttle. It's an awkward silence going up, but at one point, Davorn, not even looking at him, just says, Why even have me? And Torin, not even looking at him, says, You were just part of the cover.
Petra bats him upside the head for saying that.
Be aware, just because you're a prisoner of war does not mean we cannot charge you for other crimes, such as agitation.
And he remains silent from there.
Thank you.
You go on to Alona's heart. They are put in separate brigs. Eofred looks at this, listens to your report. Well, that's messy. Danu also looking at this and goes, So what do you want to do with them?
The kid's situation, for better or worse, is a diplomatic fiasco, so bluntly, whatever punishment he faces is going to have some buy-in from the...
My kin and I will determine an appropriate punishment for him.
Be aware that such a punishment has to also be approved by the Queendom. We are not going to just hand over someone to be done with whatever they want. The child is a Queendom citizen. They still have rights.
He is a child butcher, but as you say. And for the first time, you hear, genuine venom coming from Kengalva. And what about Eccles? Says Eofred.
He submitted himself as a prisoner of war. It means he will be handed over to higher authorities to be interrogated and have his serial number processed. Then whomever sent him to sabotage one of our ships will have to answer for it.
At which point Danu was just like, oh, he's going to be in there for a while.
Probably.
Well, considering what it's been said that he did, that falls under Daughters of Harmony jurisdiction, I think.
Yes, it does.
You send a communication through the dreaming and get a hold of Commander Kinnett. You fill her in on everything and she just goes, wow, that's messy.
Yes, it's very messy.
Still, I submitted the report to the Nomarch, and he will go along with whatever you wish to do to settle this up. He's just glad it's over.
As am I.
A few days go by as you wait for a Daughters of Harmony ship to come to take Eccles away. Is there anything you wish to do in that time?
Chaka would like to go search for the missing Basu children, collect them, de-chip them, and return them to Kengalva.
Finding them isn't hard. Without a command, they just kind of stayed near the transit hub. De-chipping is going to be a longer issue, but you can at least turn the chips off.
Petra will go along with that as a sort of bodyguard backup to stun them and knock them out if they get a little woodly.
Kengalva, despite the pain it brings to him that you can see on his face, he actually says it's probably best to keep them stunned and sedated until we can return them home.
Trust me, I had to get stung by one of these things. Part of my training to use them. It's not fun, but they'll sleep and they won't be harmed.
I can only hope they dream good dreams.
Chaka is also going to search for any potential dead Basu, hoping that the only dead one is the one that she got.
You don't find any dead Basu.
Then she is relieved to tell Kengalva that Mr. Alexis is not a butcher of children.
Except for the mind control devices that he put in their heads that may very well prevent them from ever having words.
That may be true, but I thought you would find some relief that he did not kill any of them.
Thank you, that is somewhat comforting, yes.
Petra starts chuckling. This is low but constant laughter.
Alyssa.
Alyssa is going to spend the time mostly talking to Davram, just talking with him.
Well, a couple things. As you, the player, are probably unsurprised to hear, Alyssa recalls where she saw Eccles before. He wasn't called Eccles, and he was on Unity's Grace. You remember seeing him there. You never talked to him much, but you did run past him more than once. That's why he was so familiar.
Yep.
And you, the player, might not remember, but Keladon Maris, his last known stationing before disappearing off the grid for this whole thing that he's involved in with the larger plot, he was stationed on Nagara.
Yes, she would definitely remember that.
And so you talk with Alexis, and despite everything, he doesn't seem like a bad kid. He just kind of got caught up with a need to fix an injustice, and the fact that that injustice also resulted in his existence only kind of made it worse.
Also, a little too arrogant to double-check his plan to make sure he's not committing a super heinous crime.
Yeah. So Eccles is being taken away by the Daughters of Harmony. Davorn is staying with you?
Presumably, whatever the equivalent of the State Department for the Queendom will get into contact with the Basu and will work out an arrangement for an appropriate punishment for him.
Well,
as part of the official apology.
That would fall to the Nomarch and his administration. So you transfer him back down to Nagara, and proceedings commence. But that's not what you're here for.
No,
You've dealt with the issue at hand, and so when the few days pass and the Daughters of Harmony ship arrives, the two ships link up and he's being transferred over. Some of your sisters come to get him. They nod. Anything we should know about before taking him aboard?
he seduced his way into a officer's good graces and used that to destroy one of our ships. So, whoever he is working for, he is very willing to do things for that cause.
Noted, one of them says.
So be skeptical of any trust you may have of him.
We'll put him in solitary. That way he can't work any of his charming wiles on any of the auxiliaries. And the other one says, yes, he'll have a lot of time to reflect. And they take him away. In bitter, angry, yet seemingly validated silence, he is taken aboard the Daughters of Harmony's ship.
Petra looks over to Lisa. You know, I think he would have preferred if I'd shot him.
Maybe. But that's what makes us better than them.
Cut to black. And that's where we'll call it for tonight. Thank you everyone for playing, and thank you everyone for watching. I hope everyone here had a good time.
Yes, indeed.
I had a good time.
Hey, I'm always up for a good telenovela.
So on that happy note, again, thank you all for watching. Please do the whole YouTube thing, liking, subscribing, commenting. We enjoy reading them. And go, eat some pasta, have some desserts. Maybe do a runner's meal if you're a runner type. And thank you for being here. Fare thee well, subjects.
Was that?
After this, we're getting tacos.
Woo!
Tacos!